Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the twice weekly sales tips video. I don't like the name of that, so we're going to come up with a different name of it very soon. But that's the creative department's job. Who's the creative department, Jason?
I think it's just us in the background.
Oh,
We can call it sales tips for the closing engine.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. All right. Well, today's tip is on give them time to think. This is going to cover 4 or 5 different rules. And this is Jason Kanigan with me, my partner here at the Closing Engine. And I'm Jeremy Pope. And let's just dive right into it. So give them time to think covers several different items. The first thing that it covers is about what I call my no ambushes rule. And what this means is making sure that we don't ambush someone with a price. We don't ambush them with anything that can give them not just sticker shock, but feature shock or anything like that. You want to give someone time to think about what you're giving them to process. You give someone a big piece of information, and depending on how they think, they're going to need a little bit of time to deal with that and feel comfortable with that new information. So Jason, I think you had something about that on personality types.
Right. Well, as soon as you get out of transactional selling, which is like going to the store to buy a jug of milk, right, and into anything more complicated, you've got to get out of that mentality of, oh, sales is about tricking somebody into something, right? And as soon as you get past that, then you're into the mode of, okay, well, now I have to be more nurturing. Now I have to think of the customer as a partner, not somebody I'm going to bamboozle into exchanging money for what I've got. Now, there are, if you follow, you know, a behavioral profile indicator like DISC, D-I-S-C, which divides society into 4 different types of people, you'll find that the different types behave differently. And so if you're a really pushy D and your prospect is an S and you come down on them like a ton of bricks, they're just going to squeal and get the hell out of there. Yeah. And so this is exactly where what we're talking about today, giving them time to think, comes in.
Right. Okay. Cool. The next item is that the default response for just about any big decision, and we're talking about high ticket here, mid ticket and high ticket. So over about the $3,000 mark, about the $2,000 mark, we start thinking in terms of mid ticket packages. And then once you get over the 5K, 10K mark, we're kind of high ticket for most people in a personal level, maybe not for a company. So for high ticket, this is a big decision. This is not an impulse buy. It's definitely not a transactional buy, but where you've got a clerk that's just an order taker. So with these, the default response is no. Anytime you have a big decision to make, it is easier not to make that decision. So we definitely want to give people time to process. If you are giving someone a giant new chunk of information and then immediately pressing them for a decision, they're going to go with their default, with what they're trained to do. And we're trained to protect ourselves pretty thoroughly in a lot of ways. This is just one of them. Do you have any notes on that?
Well, again, we're out of the transactional sort of model. The only place that that really continues on in the real world is buying and selling of cars, where people buy it like they're buying a jug of milk, which is crazy. And so first we've got to get past that rapport stage where the person, the prospect is open to actually listening to you. That's where most people fail and bounce off. Then if you're coming in with a complex sale like this with complex ideas, yes, the prospect needs that time to sort through what you're sharing with them, right? If it's a lot of new information, they do need time to process that. And they may need to go back and talk to other influencers that work with them in their organization before they can come back and give you an answer. And like you say, if you come down on them like a ton of bricks and pressure them with, you know, that hardcore selling style of closing, they're just going to run away. Yeah. They're not going to want to do it.
That's a great point, even for the multiple stakeholder types of sales. One of the big mistakes that we see a lot of people making is trying to get the sale on the first call, not even knowing if you have the decision maker on the phone or in that meeting, if you're in a video meeting or whatever. You have to find this out first. And otherwise, you're going to create yourself an easy out just to take whatever they give you, and you're going to end up doing a lot of what some people call free consulting. That buyer, they have things they want to know. They have legitimate needs. They need to know things. But you have things that you need to know as well, and they are not in a more powerful position than you are. You need to be aware of that position that you're both in. You both have things that each of you need. And so being able to give them time to get past their default and honestly think about something, that's a favor that you're doing them. Being able to get them into that real thinking, being able to get them really able to feel what's going on, depending on the style of thinking that they use. Ooh, that'll be good for another video. The different types of thinking and sensing that we use. But that's a favor to them, getting them past their default. Their default has gotten them where they are right now. Is that, I mean, if they're in a rut, if they've got a problem to solve, well, default is not solving that problem. So you need to move them out of that default, and pressure is not going to, that's not going to move them out of the default. So that's on to the next item here. I call that, well, this changes things. And what I mean by that is when you introduce, well, let me back up. If everything's working right now in the call, if everything's working in your flow, if all the information is coming across thoroughly and everyone's happy, then don't throw a monkey wrench into the situation. Don't change the picture unnecessarily. Now, if there are important details, okay, that needs to happen. But don't throw an important detail in there. Don't try and slip something in at the last second. Okay, well, I'm just about ready for your credit card. Let's get that taken care of, and we'll deliver within 140 days. No. That's going to cause significant problems, as you can imagine from my exaggerated tone of voice there. But people do that kind of thing because they still have, like what you said earlier, they've got that tricky mindset going on. And that's not what it's about. High-ticket sales that you want to turn into a relationship, you have to treat it like a relationship from the very beginning. So don't ambush them with a price. Don't ambush them with something different. Don't try and hide information and then reveal it once they've made the commitment. They may make the decision in your favor, but they're not going to feel good about it. They need to have all their information, all the relevant stuff up front.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think you brought up some great points there. Not everybody thinks like you do. And I mean you, our viewer, right? You know, who's watching, right? I think you and I talked about it and we got to our mid-20s, both of us, before we realized, hey, wait a minute, not everybody's thinking the same way we do. Yeah. And so we need to make allowances for that. Everybody wants to pretend to be the D in the disc profile. Everybody wants to pretend to be the high-powered decision maker. And so they will play that role and pretend to be the buyer when they're actually not really the decision maker. So you do have to dig for that.
Right.
And what you say about painting the picture, and the prospect has a picture in their mind about how this is going to go. As the salesperson, yeah, you want to be finding that out as accurately as you can, both of you duplicating that picture and not throwing the monkey wrench in at the end. So great points there about how to slow things down a little bit at the end. And I think one of the last things that we'd like to get across is set a next step, right? Yeah. Once you get to this point, you don't want to just, hey, thanks, that's great, the ball's in your court, we'll you know, get back to me when you're ready, right? You can say, how much time do you think you'll need to go through this with yourself or your team, who else needs to be involved, that kind of thing, right? And set a date for that next meeting. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not pressure. That's creating expectations, which is a good thing in selling.
Exactly. That pressure would be if you were saying, let's talk Thursday, let's talk Thursday. That's not what we're talking about. pressure is not for relationships, but give and take, that's absolutely the way a relationship works. And you need to make sure that they're okay with what's going on. You need to check in with them frequently during that sale. So when you're setting up your next step, and we'll have videos about best ways to set up next steps for various types of sales. But when you're setting up that next step, you need to let them lead whenever possible. If there's any way you can let them lead in setting up that next step, do it. Okay, how long do you need to deal with this? How long do you need to figure that out? Okay, when can you talk with this person? Reasonably. I don't want to push you. Let them lead in that, and they'll be so much more committed to that decision and so much more committed to that statement that they give you than if you had pressured them into, okay, how's Thursday? How's Thursday? How's Thursday? Someone who agrees to something with an okay, that is not a solid commitment, and that's not something to build a relationship on. Honey, would you marry me? Okay. No, no, that's not going to be effective. That's not the start of a great relationship. So make sure that you give them the time that they need. We've got one more, and that's kind of what is this not about? This doesn't mean tell them the price up front. When we talk about no ambushes, when we talk about giving them time to think, this does not mean blurt out your price right up at the beginning. What this means instead, in terms of price, is giving them general ranges, helping frame the equation, because that lets them know, okay, here's what he thinks of as expensive, here's what he thinks of as cheap. So if you say something along the lines in your application or on the sales call, if you're talking about, well, I mean, we're not talking about something expensive like $55,000. That's a very different feeling than if you say, well, we're not talking about something expensive like $2,500. You have the ability to set the frame there. And you can do that in subtle and obvious ways. You don't have to be sneaky about it, but you also don't have to give away your price before you have time to build value and discover their pain. You need time to process those things as well. So don't blurt out your price at the beginning. Don't try and wow them with features. We are giving them time to feel, we're giving them time to think, we're giving them time to process every step of the way. And when we just dump information on someone, that doesn't mean they're going to think about it. That doesn't mean they have any feelings about it. That just means they have more information. So that's all I've got. Do you have anything else on that topic, Jason?
Yeah, it's a great point. More information does not necessarily lead to a sale.
I like that phrasing much better.
Yeah.
More information does not lead to a more chance of a sale.
Yeah, and a lot of what we just talked about there, Jeremy, is the marketing's job as well. You know, to set the scene, to sort of do the layup in volleyball terms, and make it easier for the sale to go ahead.
Yeah.
The prospect should not be coming into the conversation with you knowing nothing. Right. Can that happen? Yes, right. Unless you're very, very strict about your sales process and you boot them back to the beginning, right? Well, no, actually, you need to look through this marketing material before you get the chance to talk to me, right? That's one good way of doing it. But I know we're reaching the end of our time limit for this here, so I'm going to cut it short there.
All right, we'll save that stuff for more videos. It'll be fun. All right, well, this is Jason Kanigan and Jeremy Pope with theclosingengine.com. And we look forward to sharing more videos with you. Let us know what you think. Comment below with questions. We are happy to do more videos on the topics that you want. And just let us know what you need. All right. Have a good one.